We've got plenty of injury updates to fill you in on, and that's exactly why I go through every matchup every Saturday, because it gives me plenty of time to get injury updates late in the week. So make sure to go down there, drop a like on this video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support, because I'm one of the only fantasy YouTubers working on a Saturday to get you this content. Now, going down to our first matchup, the Cincinnati Bengals at the Carolina Panthers here, and Zach Moss is still my preferred running back, but he's not a must-start. I think the matchup here for Zach Moss is really good against the Panthers. I think the Bengals ultimately do win this game, and I prefer him over Chuba just because I think his offense is better and more stable, but I do think Chuba Hubbard is a good play as well. Chuba Hubbard has looked good. Like, take out week one, he's been a good player in this league. Now, with Chuba Hubbard, obviously the uncertainty with the Panthers offense is scary. But the matchup against the Bengals here, I like that matchup. I'm personally playing Chuba Hubbard in a dynasty league, but if I had Zach Moss too, I would play Zach Moss over Chuba Hubbard. And you can't play Chase Brown, you can't play Miles Sanders. You can keep Chase Brown as an insurance policy to Zach Moss because he is still involved on a relatively decent basis, but Chase Brown is not relevant enough on a weekly basis for fantasy upside. Dropping out to our next matchup here. The New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons here. Alvin Kamara is a must-start if he plays. Alvin Kamara is officially questionable as of the time of this filming, and again, that's why we go over it on a Saturday. He was in and out of practice this week. He didn't practice on Wednesday, and then he limited practice on Thursday and Friday. So chances are good he's going to play in this game unless there's some unforeseen setback or something like that. But ultimately, I think Alvin Kamara is the best option if he plays because I like his matchup better than Bijan's. Bijan, the reality with him, he's taking on the Saints this week. That's not an easy matchup, especially when you have been a little bit underwhelming other than that. But obviously, Bijan's getting the work. So you don't put Bijan on your bench here, and he was dealing with a shoulder injury. He's fine. He's going to go. He's cleared to go. But Bijan Robinson has been a little bit underwhelming, obviously, and I don't think this is particularly the matchup for him. That being said, you can't put him on your bench. Jamal Williams, just in case Alvin Kamara doesn't go, mention the name because he would be a flexible guy if Alvin Kamara doesn't go. But if Alvin Kamara goes, Jamal Williams is on your bench still, and Tyler Algier is definitely on your bench still as well. The Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans this week. No must-starts in this matchup. Travis Etienne is definitely the best of the bunch, but this offense stinks in Jacksonville. It looks like they don't care. I've been saying that for all week. It looks like they just don't care. So I don't really have tons of confidence in Travis Etienne, but ultimately I know that he's still a decent player. And at this point, I'm not even worried about Tank Bigsby with the volume. I'm worried about the team. The team stinks. So I'm worried about Travis Etienne. I think he's better than Cam Akers, though. So just based on a pass-catching volume basis, I think Travis Etienne's the better play than Cam Akers. But Cam Akers is getting another start. No Joe Mixon, no Dameon Pierce. Cam Akers is going to get another start. And honestly, this is kind of the game to try him on because it's the Jags defense who is bad and they're totally injured right now. So it's like, I could see people wanting to play Cam Akers. I think he's a relatively high-end option, but Cam Akers is still Cam Akers, not that great of a player, and he wasn't last week. The only thing that saved his week was a touchdown. Now, dropping out to our next tier right here, Denver Broncos at the New York Jets here. Breece Hall still is a must-start. Obviously, people are concerned about Braylon Allen and his involvement, and I think it's a conversation worth having, but Breece Hall is not losing volume because he's bad. Breece Hall's still elite. They can't keep Braylon Allen off the field at this point because Braylon's been so good on every touch, which is why I prefer him over Javonte. And it's not even that I think Braylon's like a high-end play. I think he's a mid-tier flex play. But Javonte is in that mid-tier as well. This offense is not good. And at this point, he might lose touches to Tyler Bidet. I'm not ready to put Tyler Bidet in because ultimately I think this matchup stinks. And I think that Javonte maybe gets another shot. But make it clear, Javonte Williams is totally at risk. We're at red alert here with Javonte. I think you can absolutely put Javonte on your bench, but if you're really, really desperate, he's still the one I prefer in Denver. And Jaleel McLaughlin at this point kind of looks irrelevant. Minnesota Vikings at the Green Bay Packers this week. Aaron Jones is a must-start. I love the matchup. I love the revenge game narrative against the Green Bay Packers, and he's looked really good. Now, he's not always going to be that efficient. He's a really efficient player, but it's just not always going to work with Aaron Jones, right? So maybe this week it doesn't work. I'm leaning on the side it works because I think they're going to get him touches in this revenge game narrative. Josh Jacobs is still a must-start for me. Lower-end must-start because of the Emmanuel Wilson involvement last week. I don't think that's going to keep up week to week. I kind of have a feeling this could be a Josh Jacobs week, but again, The matchup's really tough against the Minnesota Vikings, so it's not something I'm feeling super confident in, but I ultimately do think if there's a Green Bay running back to be played this week, it's not Emmanuel Wilson. I don't think he's going to be a guy that you want to put in your lineup this week against the Vikings defense. I think Josh Jacobs is that guy, and then Ty Chandler, it's just not there right now with him. It's Aaron Jones or bust in the Minnesota backfield. Dropping out to the next matchup, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Indianapolis Colts. Jonathan Taylor remains a must start. I will say the matchup is scary. Against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think they could lose this game pretty handily. But Jonathan Taylor broke out last week, and he's a great player. So you can't put Jonathan Taylor on your bench out of fear of a matchup. Najee is a good high-end flex play this week. I like the matchup. This is probably the only time of the year I'll say Najee's a pretty high-end must-start. Lots of things line up for him. No Jalen Warren. Cordarrelle Patterson, not going to be involved enough. And Najee's already handling about 20 carries per game. So you get him the receptions on top of it with another couple carries. He's got a good matchup too. So put all that volume together against the bad defense in a situation where he could get his first red zone touchdown of the year. I think Najee's a pretty high-end flex play this week. And then again, you don't play another Pittsburgh running back. The Los Angeles Rams at the Chicago Bears. Kyren Williams is a must start. Obviously, last week he had a hat trick. He dominated. He looked great, made me look stupid. So you don't put him on the bench, even though it's a tougher matchup. You can't play a Bears running back, man. That's the headline. You cannot play a Bears running back. I don't care if it's Roschon. I don't care if it's Herbert. You can't play anybody. Swift looks horrible, and it's not, honestly, like, I refrain from saying it's even all Swift's fault. He looks bad, but this offense doesn't have an offensive line, and they abandon the run. Like, they can't, as I say, they can't move the ball consistently. It's either hit big chunk plays down the field to move the ball, or they're going 3 and out. They can't sustain drives because they have no run game. I'm not playing a Bears running back in this matchup. The Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, Saquon's a must start. No need to talk about it. I don't think another running back exists in Philadelphia if it's not Saquon Barkley. I don't even know what their names are. I do, but they don't matter. The Rachaad White situation, it's a disaster. I mean, Rachaad White has looked so bad this year. He's losing volume, but I will say I still prefer him over Bucky this week. Bucky had the opportunity. The dude's injured, man. He's questionable in this game. It makes me mad because I was ready to say Bucky Irving. It's going to be a good week for him. It's not there right now. Bucky Irving, I still think he's flexible. I think they're relatively close to the same tier. But Bucky dealing with the hamstring injury, even if he does play, what's his effectiveness level going to be? So Rachaad White in this matchup, I think is still the better play. But I want to take Bucky Irving so bad, it's just not there right now. New England Patriots at the San Francisco 49ers. Jordan Mason, must start. No need to talk about it. Matchup is great. Ramondre is a mid-tier flex for me. I mean, really. Ramondre Stevenson, the matchup's not very good, right? And then on top of that, the New England Patriots offense is starting to look the way that I thought they would look before the start of the season. They look bad all of a sudden. And Ramondre has fumbled a bunch this season already, and it's put a target on his back without a doubt. I mean, every defensive player is going to be going after the ball. So if he fumbles again in this matchup, there's going to be real risk of him losing opportunities to Gibson. And he's already lost a couple to Gibson, which I don't think makes Gibson playable, but Ramondre is definitely in trouble. So I don't think he's much more than the mid-tier flex option. The only reason I'm including Isaac Guerendo's name this week is because it's someone you need to know. If Jordan Mason were to go down, Isaac Guerendo, by all accounts, looks like the backup in San Francisco right now. The Washington Commanders at the Arizona Cardinals this week. James Conner and Brian Robinson, they're both must-starts. James Conner's going to be fine. The matchup is great. He's going to be just fine. Don't take last week too far. James Conner is going to be just fine. He still controls the backfield. Brian Robinson is a must-start this week. Look, I've already loved the player in fantasy, and especially without Austin Ekeler, who's out this week with a concussion, I think Brian Robinson Jr. is in line for a good game this week against the Cardinals defense. That's going to be a big way of how they move the ball. He's been really efficient this year, as I predicted, and he's getting lots of red zone carries, as I predicted as well. Brian Robinson Jr., at most situations, I don't think he's a good guy to bench, but especially this week without Ekeler, you don't bench Brian Robinson Jr. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Chargers this week. It's not a good matchup for JK, but I still prefer him over Carson Steele. The matchup is not good because the Chiefs defense is really good, and ultimately, I think the Chiefs might beat the brakes off the Chargers this week. Now, if Justin Herbert doesn't play, I think J.K. Dobbins is below Carson Steele because they're probably not going to be able to get anything going offensively. But if Herbert plays, I think that J.K. is the better option because I just like the running back himself more than Carson Steele. But I will say with Carson Steele, people will have questions, right? Kareem Hunt got moved up to the active roster this week. Why isn't Kareem Hunt the guy that you want? I haven't seen it yet with Kareem Hunt. I think there's a reason they put him on the practice squad. He probably wasn't in playing shape. So if anything, I think they kind of eased him back into the lineup this week, and he just hasn't looked good the past 2 years with Cleveland. So the guy's not the same player he was when he was first drafted by the Chiefs. Let's get that straight. Carson Steele, based on last week, is the lead carry guy. Now, again, they may start getting Kareem Hunt more involved, but right now, I still prefer Carson Steele out of the Chiefs running backs here. So keep an eye on Kareem Hunt. I don't think he's going to be irrelevant completely in this offense this week. I think they'll work him back in, but with Samaje Perine, I think with Kareem Hunt coming back, I think that makes him almost irrelevant. And Gus Edwards at this point, he's starting to look pretty irrelevant in this offense. He was dominated by J.K. Dobbins last week in the carries, and he obviously hasn't done anything with the carries. So for me personally, in a tough matchup where J.K. started to take over, definitely do not play Gus Edwards. But I'll tell you what definitely does hit this week. Patrick Mahomes' line on underdog is 0.5 total yards. That's something you need to hit the higher on today and take advantage of underdog on. And if you haven't taken advantage of this yet, go down in the comments, grab the link that's there, and use code FN to sign up for underdog, where not only will they give you a 50% deposit match if you deposit at least $10, you'll also be able to take advantage of this Patrick Mahomes line and play some other pick'ems this week on the underdog app. Now, dropping out to our next matchup this week, Cleveland Browns at the Las Vegas Raiders. Jerome Ford is my favorite option, and I think that Deonta Foreman, I'd rather play him over the other Raiders running backs. The Raiders running backs literally have no merit for me. I know that Alexander Mattison has gotten lucky with touchdowns this year. I don't care. He's getting less volume than Zamir White. Zamir White's not very good, and Alexander Mattison has just gotten lucky with touchdowns. I want nothing to do with the Raiders running backs. I would rather play Deonta Foreman, who is kind of close to splitting volume with Jerome Ford, than I would with the Raiders running backs. But of course, I think Jerome Ford is the better player on a per touch basis, which makes me want to invest in him more than Deonta Foreman in this Raiders matchup here. But I will say, neither of these guys is high end. They're both like, Ford's more of an upper middle tier flex option, and I would say Deonta Foreman is kind of in the middle tier flex option area. The Buffalo Bills at the Baltimore Ravens, the Sunday night game. Can't wait for this game, and I think that both running backs, you play them. James Cook, this is strength on strength right here. James Cook's been elite this year, and the Baltimore Ravens are the #1 run defense. Totally strength on strength. I think there will be moments where both sides get the best of each other, but either way, guys, like I had a couple questions about James Cook this week. My advice is never going to be to sit James Cook. This is too elite of a player, averaging 20 fantasy points per game practically. I just cannot, in my right mind, say to bench James Cook out of fear of a matchup and how it goes. I am not sitting James Cook, and I would not advise you to sit him either. Derrick Henry, I think he's playable. I think he's still a must start, but the matchup is not ideal for him either. Now, what I fear with Derrick Henry more than I do with Cook is that Henry has a week that's similar to the first 2 weeks, where it's like he gets a red zone touchdown and that kind of saves his performance, gives him like 12 or 13 fantasy points. I don't think this is the matchup where he's going to be dominating again like he did against the Cowboys defense. But of course, Derrick Henry, like, you could count on the red zone touchdown because he always is going to be used for the red zone, and he's uniquely built to get it in. And then obviously you don't worry about either of the other backup options in this matchup. Tennessee Titans at the Miami Dolphins. The first of the doubleheader on Monday night. These doubleheaders annoy me. So Devon Achane, you still play him. I had a bunch of people that were like, where is Devon Achane in the running back rankings? I accidentally edited the Devon Achane portion out. Don't know how it happened, but of course Devon Achane is a must start here. Bad league last week. Tyler Huntley's going to play this week. Hopefully raise the upside, give them a little bit of a spark offensively, but either way, Devon Achane. Whether or not Mostert plays, and he's questionable by the way, Devon Achane's the guy that you want. Raheem Mostert is not going to be able to get anything going in this offense without Tua because they just don't have as much offensive upside without Tua. So I think that Devon Achane is still the guy that you want in this offense along with Tyreek Hill. And with both of those guys, I'm still telling you that they're must starts. Tony Pollard is a must start this week. The matchup's really good. I really like Tony Pollard this week, but I will say that based on last week, Tyjae Spears is a flexible play. I wouldn't say he's high end. I would much rather play somebody like a J.K. Dobbins or a Carson Steele. But with Tyjae Spears, I think he's a mid-tier option, sort of in the range of Jerome Ford and Deonta Foreman. Because I think that Tyjae Spears is going to get targets, which is what he did last week. But I think ultimately Pollard handles the carries in this game. And in a matchup where they could very easily beat the Dolphins, I want Tony Pollard in this matchup. And the last matchup of the week, the Seattle Seahawks at the Detroit Lions here, the last Monday night game of the week. Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, there's really no reason to talk about it. You play both them. I don't care if they're both on the same team. If you've got both of them, you put them both in because they're both almost virtual locks to get you 15 to 16 fantasy points each. That's what the Lions running backs are doing, and it's very sustainable because of Ben Johnson's system there. Kenneth Walker is a must start. What I will say is if Walker plays, I don't rule out that there's Zach Charbonnet involvement because maybe they don't want to give Kenneth Walker a full workload when he gets back. And based on the way Charbonnet's played, he looks pretty good. So I would say that Charbonnet is a flexible guy. So let me know how your lineup looks this week. And if you want to see where all these running backs ended up in my top 30 running back rankings, click on this video right here.